You walk out to your garden on a warm July morning, coffee going cold in your hand, and there it is. The first real tomato of the summer, the one you have watched swell on the vine for 3 weeks, the one you were saving for a sandwich. And the whole bottom of it has gone brown and sunken and leathery, caved in on itself like a soft spot on an old porch board. You turn it over slow, and your heart sinks because you did everything they told you. You fed that plant. You staked it up tall. You watered it every evening when the leaves looked tired, and still it rotted from the bottom up while you were sleeping. Now most folks, the very minute they see that black patch, they go reaching for calcium. They crush eggshells and bury them in the hole. They drive to the store and buy a spray with a bright label that promises to cure it. And I am going to tell you, as plain as I know how, that is the wrong bottle. The rot on the bottom of your tomato is almost never about calcium missing from your ground. It is about water. And once you understand that one thing, really understand it, you can stop most of it this very week for about the price of a bale of straw. My name is Miriam Fisher. I have grown tomatoes in the same patch of black dirt behind this house, here in Lancaster County, since I was a young married woman, and that is a good deal closer to 50 years now than I care to say out loud. My grandmother grew them in that same ground before me, and her mother before her, and not one of them ever bought a bottle of anything to keep a tomato from rotting. What they had was a way of putting on the water, and a habit of laying down straw, and a kind of patience that most of the world has traded off for a faster hose. That is the whole of what I am going to give you today. It is the old way, the way it was done for as long as anyone in my family can remember, and the garden folks, with all their schooling, have only lately come around to writing down what my grandmother already knew at her kitchen table. So stay with me here for the next little while, and I will walk you through the whole of it, step by step, the way I would show a young bride over the fence. I will show you why the bottom rots and why the skin splits, and you are going to be surprised because they turn out to be the very same problem wearing two different faces. I will show you how deep the water truly has to go, which is a good deal deeper than most folks ever imagine. There is a $2 thing I lay down every June that does more good for a tomato than any spray sitting on a shelf. And near the end, I am going to tell you exactly what to do on the day before a big summer rain rolls in, because that one afternoon is when most gardens quietly lose half their fruit and never once figure out why. None of this costs much of anything. All of it works. So stay with me to the end. You might be wondering how a thing this plain and this simple ever got forgotten. Well, I will tell you how I have come to see it, standing out here all these years. There is no money in teaching a woman to water slow and lay down a little straw. There is a great deal of money, though, in a bottle with a shiny label, and a bag of powder with a long chemical name, and a spray you have to run out and buy all over again next month when it does not work. So that is what gets sold to you, and that is what fills up the shelves, and that is what everybody ends up talking about over the fence. The plain answer, the free one, the old one, just gets crowded clean out. It was never buried in the ground and never hidden away on purpose. It simply does not put $1 in anyone's pocket to say it out loud. So little by little folks stopped saying it. And a whole generation grew up thinking a rotten tomato needs a trip to the store. Now let me start with the one thing most folks get wrong, because everything else I tell you rests square on top of it. That brown, sunken, leathery rot on the bottom of the tomato has a proper name. The growers call it blossom end rot, because it shows itself on the blossom end, the very bottom, where the little yellow flower once hung before the fruit set. And here is the honest truth of the matter. Yes, the plant does need calcium to build the bottom of that fruit up firm and sound and sweet. But in most every garden I have ever stood in, the calcium is already there in the dirt, and plenty of it. The real trouble is that the plant cannot carry that calcium up into the fruit, because calcium can only travel through a tomato plant riding along on water. When your soil goes bone dry, then sopping wet, then bone dry all over again, that water quits moving through the plant nice and steady, and the calcium never once reaches the far bottom of the fruit in time to do its work. So the fruit builds itself hollow and weak down there, and the flesh breaks down. And it rots. It is not a shortage down in your ground. It is a delivery problem, pure and simple, and water is the wagon that does the hauling. That is exactly why dumping more calcium on top so seldom fixes a single thing. You are piling on more of the very stuff that was never missing in the first place, while the wagon that was supposed to carry it sits there with a broken wheel. Now the second face of that same trouble is cracking, and it catches even good gardeners off their guard. You have surely seen it. A fine ring of splits circling around the shoulders of the tomato, up near the stem, or a deep, ugly gash running clear down one side. That happens when the inside of the fruit swells up faster than the skin can stretch to hold it all in. And why on earth would the inside just suddenly swell like that? Because the plant went thirsty for a good long stretch, and the fruit near about stopped growing and set its skin tight and firm. And then a heavy rain came, or a heavy watering, all at once, and those roots drank hard and fast and shoved a whole week's worth of water up into the fruit in a single day. The skin, which had gone tight and set during the dry spell, simply cannot give quick enough to keep up, so it splits right open. It is the same story as the rot, told a different way. A tomato lives and dies by sameness, the same steady drink, the same amount, day after day after day. And when it gets that, the bottom stays sound, and the skin stays whole, and you carry a full basket to the porch. So here is the first thing I want you actually to do, and it is the biggest lever you have got, so hear me well. Water deep and water seldom. Most folks stand out there of an evening and sprinkle a little water on top every single day, just wetting the very surface of the ground, and they go to bed, feeling they have been kind and faithful to their plants. But a shallow little drink like that teaches the roots to crowd up near the top of the soil, right where the July sun bakes them dry again by noon the next day, and then the poor plant is thirsty all over again by supper time. What a tomato truly wants is somewhere around 1 to 2 inches of water across a whole week. That is your rain and your hose counted together, but given deep in a good long soak, wetting the ground down 6 to 8 inches, so the roots learn to grow down, where the dirt stays cool and damp long after the top has crusted over. Down there in the deep, the soil holds its moisture nice and even is the whole game we are playing. I soak mine hard maybe twice a week when the heat is high, and on a heavy clay ground like some of you have, you might only need to do it the once, and before you ever turn that hose on, push your finger down into the soil to the second knuckle. If it comes up damp down there, you leave the hose be and you wait another day. Your finger is a better tool than any calendar, and you learn your own ground because it changes the whole rhythm. A light sandy soil like they have over toward the river drains off fast and may want its water twice as often as my heavy clay, which holds a good soak for the better part of a week before it ever dries. Here is the second thing, and it goes right alongside the first. Put the water down on the ground at the very foot of the plant and keep it off the leaves. When you stand there and spray the whole plant over the top with a hose of an evening, you soak all those leaves and wet leaves sitting through a warm, dark night are exactly how a tomato catches near every disease that blows through the county. On top of that, a good share of the water you spray up high just clings to the leaves and burns off in the morning sun before it ever finds its way down to a single root. So set the end of the hose right down at the base and let it run slow and gentle, or better yet, lay a soaker hose along the whole row and let it weep quietly into the ground for an hour. A soaker hose or a drip line lays the water right down where the roots are waiting, and it can get by on something like a quarter less water than sprinkling over the top wastes. 3/4 of that old waste just gone. Your leaves stay dry and healthy, your roots stay fed and steady, and you are not stuck standing out there in the mosquitoes holding a hose for an hour of your evening. Now the third thing, and this is the $2 thing I promised you a while back, so lean in. Mulch. After the ground has warmed up good and proper in June, and you do want to wait for that warmth, not rush it in cold May, I lay down 2 to 3 inches of plain straw all around the base of every single plant, laid thick enough that I cannot see one speck of bare dirt through it anywhere. Now some folks use shredded leaves they raked and saved from the fall, and some use grass clippings dried out a day or two first so they do not mat down slimy, and some use pine straw, a nursing, and every bit of it works just fine. Here is why that little blanket matters so very much. That layer of straw keeps the hot sun from cooking the water straight up out of the top of your soil, so the ground underneath stays damp far, far longer between your waterings. It also holds the soil from swinging hot as an oven at noon and cool again by night, keeping it even instead. And when a hard pounding rain comes down, the straw takes the beating and lets the water soak in slow and gentle rather than pounding the bare dirt into mud and running off down the row. One bale of straw, just a few dollars at any feed store, will blanket a whole long row, and it will do more to stop your rot and your cracking than anything you could ever pour out of a bottle, because it does the one single thing that actually matters, which is keeping that water, even from one day to the next. And there is a quiet gift in it besides. By the end of the season, that straw has rotted down into the top of the soil and fed it black and loose for the next year, the very same way my grandmother's beds only ever got richer with time, never poorer, and never once from a bag of anything she bought. If you do nothing else at all that I say to you today, you go and do this one thing. The fourth thing I want to teach you is about those 2 dangerous moments in a tomato's summer: the tail end of a dry spell and the front edge of a big rain. If your garden has gone dry for a week while you were off visiting, or the rain just would not come, do not you dare march back out there and drown it all in one great flood of an evening to make up for lost time. That sudden flood right after a drought is the exact thing that splits your fruit wide open. Bring the water back gentle instead, a good soak, then another the very next day, and let the plant ease itself back into drinking slow. And when you see a big summer storm building up dark on the sky, the kind that dumps 2 inches of rain inside of an hour, you walk your rows first before it hits, and you pick every tomato that has started to turn, every single one showing the least bit of color. Bring them all inside to finish ripening on a windowsill or a kitchen counter, where they will color up red and sweet just fine on their own. A tomato that is very nearly ripe is the one most likely of all to crack the moment that rain slams into it, and there is just no sense at all in losing it out on the vine when it will finish every bit as sweet sitting on your counter. I have stood and watched a whole row of thin-skinned brandywines split open in 20 minutes of a July cloudburst, while the thick-skinned paste tomatoes right beside them came through the same storm without a single mark on them. Now I am going to be straight with you for a minute, because plain honesty is the only way I know how to teach. Even watering will not save every last tomato, every single time, and I would be lying to say it would. Some kinds crack far easier than others, no matter what you do. The big old heirloom sorts, with their thin, tender skins, are delicate that way, and if that is what you love to grow like I do, you simply have to watch them a little closer than the rest. A freak stretch of 100-degree heat will stress a plant, even when your hose has been perfectly steady, and a real gully washer of a storm can split fruit that was sitting there pretty as a picture just an hour before, and no gardener alive, Amish or English, has ever once ruled the sky. I will not stand here and promise you a whole summer with never a single bad tomato in the basket, but the steady water and the straw together will turn a patch that loses half its fruit into a patch that loses only a handful. And believe me, that right there is the whole difference between a garden that discourages you and a garden that feeds you. Now, if you should want the whole of this written down plain and simple, the watering rhythm, and what blossom end rot really and truly is, and the mulch, and the little calendar I keep tacked by the door, I have put every bit of it onto one single page that I call the Amish Tomato Rescue Card, and you are welcome to it, free of charge, at the address you will find just below this video. It is there for the folks who like to carry a thing in hand out to the garden with them. And that is the one and only time I will bring it up. So now, let us get right back to the tomatoes. Stop and think for just a moment about what all this is really worth to a household. A few good tomato plants and one honest season of your care can put up 100 quarts of sauce and whole canned tomatoes down on your cellar shelf. Enough to carry a family clear through a long winter without buying so much as a single can from the store. So when half your fruit rots on the bottom or splits open on the vine, you have lost far more than one ugly tomato for the chickens. You have lost jars you will never get to fill, and money right back out of your pocket at the store come January to make up for the sauce you did not put by. A few dollars of straw and a slower, steadier hand on the hose is truly the cheapest food insurance there ever was. My own grandmother fed 9 growing children out of a garden patch, not much bigger than a bedroom, and she managed it by never once letting a single sound tomato go to waste, and the whole of that started with keeping them sound and whole in the first place, right there on the vine. So here, plain and in order, is exactly what I want you to go and do this week. First thing, stop reaching for the calcium and the eggshells. The rot on the bottom is a water problem, not a dirt problem, and that spray will not mend it. Second, water your plants deep and seldom, that 1 to 2 inches across the week, soaking the ground down 6 to 8 inches. And always check with your finger before you ever turn the hose. Third, lay the water down at the very foot of the plant and keep it off the leaves with a soaker hose if you have got one to hand. Fourth, go and lay down your 2 to 3 inches of straw or leaves this very week and cover over every last bit of bare dirt around your plants. And fifth, when a big rain is on the way, ease the water back, gentle after any dry spell, and pick your turning tomatoes and bring them in before that storm ever hits. You go do those 5 plain things, and you will watch your bottom rot and your cracking near about dry right up before the summer's out. Now, I would truly love to hear from you, so do this for me. Tell me down in the comments where it is you garden, what state or what country, way out wherever you are, and tell me honest whether your tomatoes this year have been rotting on the bottom or splitting across the top, or both at once. I read every single one of those comments myself. Everyone. And it helps me know what you need me to teach next. And tell me this too. If you would, had you ever once heard before today that blossom end rot is a water problem and not a calcium problem at all? I would wager most of you never had. And I am honestly curious how many of you have been out there reaching for the eggshells all this time, just exactly the way I myself once did when I was young and did not know better. Next time, I am going to take you right back out to the same garden, and I am going to show you how I save my very own seed from the finest tomato of the whole entire summer, so that come every spring, I have never once had to go and buy a packet of seed off a rack. And I will show you how you can tell, just by looking her over, which one tomato on the whole heavy vine is the one that is truly worth the saving. Now I will tell you this much to chew on. It is not the biggest one, and it is not the prettiest one either, and most folks pick the wrong one every time. So until then, you water slow, you lay your straw down thick, and you let the good Lord and a little honest patience do the rest of the work. I will see you out in the garden.